In this video, I'm going to share with you how to soundproof a party wall in this 1960s semi-detached home. If you have shared wall noise from neighbours and want to stop hearing your neighbour noise, then this is a great video for you. If you're a builder, DIYer or homeowner and you have a semi-detached home, you might want to get a pen and paper because this one's a good one. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to soundproof a room like this lounge diner, reducing that neighbour noise so you don't hear your neighbours anymore, so you can stay in the home you love. Alright, let's get stuck in. Our homeowners were hearing everything from the neighbours next door, and when I say everything, they're able to make out clear conversation, so they're able to make out words. They're also hearing plug sockets, light switches, doors banging, and a lot of thumps and bangs of kids running around next door and playing football next door too. But one of the worst noises that our homeowners were suffering from was the neighbour's washing machine. Every time that the neighbours put their washing machine on, the vibration of that washing machine was felt in our homeowners' living room floor. They could feel the vibration of that neighbour's washing machine in their own floor. And not just in this room, but the rest of the house too. The vibrations from that washing machine were transmitting all the way through to the rest of the house. Our homeowners said that the noise was so bad, it was so clear that they could even take part in the neighbours' board games next door. Like, wow. So how do you reduce this type of noise from neighbours? Well, we're going to follow the 4-step soundproofing method to get a significant reduction in noise. So if you're here looking for a quick fix, if you're looking for some clip and channel system that can be installed over the weekend, maybe some panel system that can be installed in a day, or some acoustic foam panel that offers some quick fix, then this video really isn't for you. In this video, I'm going to share with you how you get the soundproofing of a detached house. We're going to soundproof all the different noise paths of how the noise is getting into this lounge diner so our homeowners can stay in the home they love. We're not just soundproofing that shared party wall alone. Alright, let me show you how. So before we get into all the good stuff of joist disconnection and floating frames and how to soundproof that chimney stack and how to soundproof that Fireback and how to treat that RSJ on the window wall and that other conservatory door wall, we need to address, treat, soundproof the main causes of the noise. And we're not talking about the neighbour's TV on the wall or those kids running around next door or that washing machine. We're talking about clear problems with the property that is letting noise in, which it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how good your mass loaded vinyl is or how thick it is or whether you've put it between the 2 layers of drywall or how good those resilient channels are and their laboratory figure that they've got compared to others. It doesn't matter about any of that unless you address the main causes of the noise. And for this particular property, there are 2 main causes that we need to address. The first one is holes in the structure. The holes we found on this project were loads and loads of little holes, and lots of little holes, they make up a big hole. And where did we find those holes? We found them above that ceiling plasterboard and below those floorboards in that suspended floor void. And that all those little holes were letting in so much noise, and that would explain why this room, it felt like you're in a tent in terms of the neighbour noise coming through. So if you don't brick up those holes in the structure, the noise will still come through. It doesn't matter how much hard work that you've put in to soundproof that shared separating party wall to the floor, to the ceiling, if you haven't addressed the holes in the structure, you haven't bricked those holes up, because the noise will still come through and you'll still feel unsettled in your home. You'll feel uncomfortable in your home, feeling like you want to move and scrolling through Rightmove. So addressing the main causes is key. The second main cause for this particular type of property is the suspended floor void. This suspended floor void is a massive drum. Let me show you what this suspended floor void is potentially doing to this neighbour noise. So some of you may have tried this before, where you want your phone to sound a bit louder. You've turned the phone up to the maximum volume, but you know, you want it a bit louder. You get a pint glass, and what I've got a dirty glass jug, and what you do is you just play the music in your phone, and if you want it to sound a bit louder, you put it in the pint glass, or in the jug in my case, and the noise is louder. So yeah, I'm just going to stop that. I should have got a decibel meter or something like that to show on the screen, but this is something that you can try at home if you don't know about this already. Yeah, you simply get your phone, turn the volume up, and you've got the speakers pointing down into the hollow void, and the noise will sound louder. It will be louder. Now that's exactly what's happening with this suspended floor void and any other hollow void in the room that you're trying to soundproof, for that matter. And also there might be hollow voids like you see later in the video outside the room that we're trying to soundproof, and the sound is resonating in that hollow void and shooting back down into the room that we're trying to soundproof. So that's a little concept that you could try at home, and let us know how you get on in the comments down below. The noise from the structure is getting into those hollow voids, and it's resonating and it's amplifying the sound. It feels louder, and this is what's happening to this suspended floor void, which is why it's a main cause. If you don't address, soundproof that hollow suspended floor void, that is what is happening. So that's why if you put something to the party wall, to the floor, to the ceiling alone, without treating that suspended floor void, that's what's happening. That's why you're only getting a 30 to 50% reduction in noise. You're still hearing that noise from the neighbours come through. So taking that concept is why my installation teams go to such great lengths to address, soundproof that suspended floor void to reduce the noise getting into that hollow void. And the same goes for that area above the ceiling as well. That's a hollow void, that hollow ceiling too. So how is the noise getting into that suspended floor void? Well, it's coming in through those holes in the structure, and like I said, lots of little holes for this particular project, but it's also transmitting through the structure of the building. It's transmitting through that timber, through that brickwork, through all of those building materials of which your house is constructed with. When the noise from the neighbours reaches a certain volume, or certain decibel we should say, when they pump up the volume of that TV, they play their music, the dog is barking, or even the structural borne impact noises when the kids are running around next door, the doors are banging, or you've got the low frequency bass noise as well. When that noise reaches a certain volume, certain decibel, it enters the structure of the building, and it's transmitting through that brickwork, through that timber, through the structure of the building, arguably a lot more easier than me and you talking in the garden. It's transmitting through those building materials more easily than air. And that's why when the noise is transmitting through those joists, it comes across the hollow void, be it the suspended floor void or the ceiling or any other hollow void. The sound is resonating in that hollow void and then amplified, radiating out into the room and wrecking our evening when we're trying to watch a film or something. Now I know a lot of you will be saying, yeah Jim, it's coming from that right hand alcove, it's coming right there, I bet my mortgage the noise is coming from that right hand alcove. And you'll be right, yes, the noise is coming through that right hand alcove, and arguably it's louder there, yeah, because the noise is coming directly through that separating party wall. It's coming directly through that right hand alcove, and you'll be right. However, to get a significant reduction in noise, you need to address all of these other indirect noise paths as well. Otherwise, you will still hear the noise from the neighbours, and every time the neighbours raise the volume or they pump that music up, they have a gathering of people, that dog starts barking, or they play that low frequency bass noise, you will still hear the neighbour noise, and you will still feel those feelings, and you'll feel like moving. So what we try to say is, look, follow the 4-step soundproofing method, address all of those indirect noise paths to get to future-proof your home, to get a significant reduction in noise and stay in the home you love. I'm sorry if I go on about the indirect noise paths and flanking noise transmission and treating that floor and that ceiling way too much in my videos, but understanding that concept, or these concepts, will put you in that minority of homeowners that do achieve that significant reduction in noise and don't hear their neighbours anymore. And it's such a simple thing that you can test yourself at home. You can simply put your finger in your ear and put your other ear against that flanking window wall, that other wall perpendicular, that chimney stack, maybe the floor if you fancy it too, but putting your finger in your ear and putting your other ear on those flanking areas and feeling those vibrations. Next time the dog's barking next door, next time that music playing and they've got a gathering of people, they're making a loud noise next door, then test these concepts for yourself. And simply put, if you hear the noise on that flanking area, that indirect noise path, you treat it, you address it, you apply sound insulation to it. The more indirect noise paths you address, the more reduction in noise that you will get. Okay, so we've cut open the ceiling and that's exposed the holes in the structure around the joist where the joists run into the separating party wall, and we simply brick those holes up with sand and cement. We also use acoustic sealant for those more hard to reach areas. Next, we cut open the floor, and that exposes where the joists for the suspended floor run into that shared separating party wall. And what we're going to do here is we're going to clear out the suspended floor void, which improves the airflow, and it's part of our damp proofing and suspended floor system that we use. What we're working towards is disconnecting these joists which are sat on that separating party wall, this shared wall. And when I say disconnecting, I mean cutting the joists. So we're going to support them, yeah, and then we're going to disconnect them. And then we're going to take the timber that's sat on the separating party wall, take that out, brick up that hole, yeah, and then continue our soundproofing layers that we're going to install to the separating party wall. We'll be able to continue that all the way down into this subfloor. Now, remember, one of the noises our homeowners were struggling with was washing machine noise. They could feel the vibration from the washing machine, and you can see now how that vibration from the washing machine was just transmitting through these joists, through these timber joists, and then through the floor, and the floor they could feel that vibration of the washing machine, which is why disconnecting these joists is key to the success of this project, key to getting a significant reduction in noise. It's amazing how many people just try to treat this painted area. Yeah, so they just apply sound insulation, some wall system that they've seen online, and they just apply it to this painted area. They miss this huge area in the suspended floor void and this huge area above the ceiling. And to get a significant reduction in noise, we want to treat that area above the ceiling and that area below the floor. We actually install about 4 different joist disconnection systems, and that will depend on the depth of the suspended floor, the size of the joist, the load bearing, and the actual size of the room itself. And I teach all 4 different joist disconnection systems on the advanced soundproofing module. You can have access to that if you are already on the noise-free DIY soundproofing course. Link for that is in the description down below. The advanced soundproofing module is a paid for module, and you can only get access to that if you are on the noise-free DIY soundproofing course. Anyway, we carry out the damp proofing required for the suspended floor void. And if you are in the UK and you have joists running into the separating party wall, and you like the idea of joist disconnection because you have impact noise from the neighbours coming through, or maybe you're having a lot of noise from the neighbours coming through and you realise that the noise is transmitting through those joists which are sat on your separating party wall, and you like the idea of joist disconnection, then it does require a building application. That means you will have to contact your local building control officer if you're here in the UK and get them to inspect your floor before you start carrying out any work. Tell them what you're going to be doing, show them what you're going to be doing, and yeah, it's just a normal building application required. My installation company, we take care of all of that for our homeowners during our installations. I would say it's not a straightforward process. It can be very frustrating here in the UK, but what I would say is, depending on what country you are, just check that you don't need a building application for joist disconnection. Next, we remove the fire surround so we can soundproof that Fireback. it still amazes me how many people don't address that area behind the fire. Maybe they have a wood burner or something a bit more complicated, but they will take the time to seal up what they install to the alcoves either side of the chimney stack, but they don't treat that area to the fire back. Just have a look later what we install to that area to the fire back. We actually install more materials to that fire back, more layers, more sound insulation to that fire back than what we install to the alcove. That's how important this is. That's how important that fire back is. And the reason why that chimney stack and fire back is so important is because here you have a flue. And that flue will be running upstairs in a lot of properties. So that's an area where sound can channel between the upstairs rooms and the downstairs rooms. So imagine if you didn't treat that fire back and that surround, and you've got a clear hollow void from upstairs to downstairs, and you haven't treated that fire back. Okay, that's an area where sound can channel between upstairs and downstairs. Again, that's why that chimney stack and that fire back is so important. Now, some people would argue that the chimney stacks are built with denser bricks and therefore the sound transmission is not as bad. You're not hearing the neighbours so much through those chimney stacks. What I would say to you is next time that dog's barking, next time the neighbours are playing music next door, finger in the ear on the chimney stack, what do you hear on that chimney stack? And if you hear the noise, then then sound deaden that chimney stack. And I would say sound deaden it, apply the 20mm rubber to it or that viscoelastic membrane. It already has the mass, it's already got those dense bricks there, and the neighbours have potentially got a chimney stack the other side as well, so there's already enough mass there. So you need to sound deaden it. It's like a ringing drum cymbal. You need to put your hand on it, you need to coat the chimney stack in something. So putting something in front of it or building a wall around it is not necessarily going to get you that reduction in noise. And also remember, you've got that flue which transmits between upstairs and downstairs. So don't always test it when the neighbour's TV's on down there or they're playing music in their dining room. You want to test it when those kids are shouting and jumping around, messing around upstairs. Then put your ear on the chimney stack when that music or whatever they're doing upstairs in the room diagonally above. Then test that chimney stack as well. So test it on different occasions. Okay, I hope that helps. And again, sorry for my rant. Next, we continued opening up the rest of the hollow voids, like this hollow void to the right of the chimney stack. For some of you that have a chimney stack on that separating party wall, you might have the old back boiler pipes if you have an old property like that. Those pipes either have to be removed or sound deadened, or the minimum, that hollow void needs to be insulated. For here, we didn't have any pipes, so we would just sound deaden this reveal of the chimney stack here, this right-hand reveal. We also opened up the bay window ceiling, but we also exposed this RSJ. Now the homeowner was hearing the noise from the neighbour's TV, not only this area closest to the separating party wall, but this area furthest away from the separating party wall, this area at the other side of the window wall too. So if you have a window wall and you're hearing the neighbour noise, check both sides of the window, the area furthest away from the separating party wall as well. For here, we open up the RSJ, this rolled steel joist, and again, an RSJ, it's another one of those building materials where sound can transmit so easily through. So we sound deaden our RSJs with this viscoelastic membrane. And for those of you in other countries and you can't get hold of this tech sound, try using a mass loaded vinyl. Maybe the 5 kg per meter squared or even the 10 kg per meter squared mass loaded vinyl. Just hit your RSJ with a hammer, yeah? Very noisy. Then apply that mass loaded vinyl to your RSJ and then hit it again, test it, see what type of sound deadening you get with the mass loaded vinyl. I personally don't think it's going to be as good as this viscoelastic membrane, this tech sound, which is it's like a blue tack in a roll. Very good sound deadening material. I think it's got better qualities for fire rating, better fire rating qualities than say a mass loaded vinyl as well. But for those of you that can't get hold of a tech sound, maybe consider the mass loaded vinyl for sound deadening your RSJs. Don't necessarily use mass loaded vinyl for other sound deadening of the walls because that could channel the noise. For this window wall, we're going to install the 50mm system, that's the 20mm rubber, the honeycomb sandboard product, followed by the 15mm acoustic grade plasterboard, installed in our usual way with the 2 different types of adhesive, exactly like we show you in Soundproofing for Beginners. So if you haven't seen Soundproofing for Beginners, go and watch that video. It's a completely free course tutorial, and we show you exactly how to install or how to sound deaden the walls with that 20mm rubber. And if you're in other countries, you can use the gym mats. Okay, we've had a lot of people on the noise-free DIY soundproofing course from all over the world, and they've been using variations of the 20mm rubber by using gym mat companies, and they've been getting amazing reductions in noise. So if you're watching this and you think, oh, we don't do that 20mm rubber in this country, yeah, America, Canada, Ireland, Spain, Belgium, Portugal, all being able to get hold of that 20mm rubber one way or another. So yeah, check out Soundproofing for Beginners if you're interested in learning how to sound deaden the wall properly. Anyway, hope that helps. Once we've opened up all the hollow voids in this room that we're trying to soundproof, we can then begin sound deadening as many of the surfaces in this room as we can. Here's the separating party wall, and we've sound deadened it with the 20mm rubber using the 2 different types of adhesive. We're now going to install the floating frame. The frame is decoupled and isolated from the structure as much as possible. It's not built like a traditional stud frame. It's not touching. It has a 150mm gap off of that conservatory door wall, off of that chimney stack. It's decoupled from the joists with anti-vibrational pads, a 20mm rubber. The 20mm rubber we use under industrial machinery to reduce the vibration of that machinery getting into the floor. So if it's good enough for that industrial machinery, it's good enough for my floating frame. The floating frame is tucked all the way down into the suspended floor void, down to the subfloor, and all of the porous materials that we install to this floating frame are also tucked all the way down. Now, there are a number of lessons on the noise-free DIY soundproofing course showing exactly how we do this. There's also a number of different systems that you can install to your suspended floor void depending on the depth of your suspended floor, what system you're going to install, the size of the joist, the load bearing. There's so much to it. It's not something I'm going to go through in this video, but just take into consideration you need to install the right damp proofing products and the right damp proofing in order to tuck your system down into your suspended floor void. And we've done that with our suspended floor system and our joist disconnection system, providing a barrier for both moisture and sound getting into that frame. So you can potentially see the extent of which we go to tuck a system down into the floor void. And we don't do that just to create more work. It's actually 80% of the work is to tuck the system down, and it's a lot of hassle and there's a lot of risk. You know, we could find all sorts of damp problems in a suspended floor, and we have to take all of those precautions to protect those layers of the wall system, which is why we offer a 10-year guarantee with all of our work. So it's actually a lot of hassle and a lot of work to tuck the system down, but it's so important. I mean, I wouldn't take on your project, for example, if you said, Jim, you're not going into my suspended floor void, you're not cutting open my new wooden floor, or you're not going through those tiles, then yeah, we just wouldn't take on your project, because we know how important it is to treat that hollow void, that suspended floor void. And that's the same for the ceiling too. We must tuck the system up to these floorboards above, cutting it around the joists. And don't worry, we're not going to disconnect these joists. Our homeowners don't have an issue with noise from above coming down at an angle. It's mainly room to room transfer of noise they're struggling with. But we would still tuck the layers up, cutting it around the joist. And again, cutting all of those different layers of the, say, the direct noise path, the party wall system around the joist is a lot of work. Okay, so let's look at the chimney stack, in particular the Fireback. Let me share with you what we installed to the Fireback. I've already explained earlier how important the Fireback and the chimney stack is. Well, this is what we installed to this chimney stack. We've sound deadened it with the 20mm rubber, and even this little opening. So this little opening potentially was where they used to put the old back boiler, where the back boiler pipes went out. There was certainly some bricks missing, but we had an opportunity to sound deaden this area here. We next install a mini floating frame insulated with 100mm Rockwool. We're then going to install mass loaded vinyl followed by resilient bars. So you can see already that we're installing the same layers of material of which we installed to the alcoves to the Fireback here. To those resilient bars, we've installed the cement board, the 10 kg per metre squared mass loaded vinyl, followed by this fibre board. And you can see there's the lines of the floating frame, and those horizontal lines are the resilient bar lines. So the same layers of which we installed to the alcoves has been installed to the Fireback at this stage. Next, we sound deaden the cheeks with the 20mm rubber, and we install more Rockwool. And again, that's about 50mm Rockwool there. We then install another frame, and that has 100mm Rockwool in. We then apply a 15mm sound block board, which will hit that sound deadening that we installed to the cheeks. We then install a backing plaster to meet this existing render. Here we've installed a thistle backing plaster, and it's just ruled off to meet this existing render of the chimney stack. Next, we go over the whole chimney stack with the 50mm system. Here we've installed the 20mm rubber, and it's mechanically fixed and glued with the two different types of adhesive. We then install the honeycomb sandboard product, which has no mechanical fixings but has the two different types of adhesive. And then we install the 15mm acoustic grade sound block board, which again is glued with the two different types of adhesive. And that's how we soundproof a chimney stack and Fireback if the homeowner is not having any sort of fire design. That's when they're blocking it off, or for sometimes when they're creating a little opening, we also do that same system. But as long as there's no fire design that requires a flue, then that is what we apply to the chimney stack. Just some other important indirect noise paths, other areas where noise will be getting into this lounge diner, and then we'll go through fixtures and fittings, and then I'll tell you that overall soundproofing result. Okay, so we opened up the rolled steel joist, the RSJ, which was positioned above these sliding doors on the conservatory door wall. We sound deadened the RSJ with the viscoelastic membrane, and then we insulated the web of the steel with the Rockwool. We then coated the whole of this conservatory door wall with the 50mm system. So the sound deadening rubber, the honeycomb sandboard product, and then the sound block 15. And for those of you that have a semi-detached house and your neighbours have built an extension off of the rear of their property, then treating this wall, soundproofing this wall will be a key part of your soundproofing installation. And what do I mean? I mean this original back wall of the house. This is an area where you can test. You can put your finger in your ear on the wall, listen, how much noise do you hear down that flanking wall. For this project, it's a conservatory door wall. But for other properties where the neighbours have built an extension off of the rear of the property, this rear wall of the property is often where they place a big RSJ next door. So the neighbours that have done an extension next door, they put a big RSJ on this original back wall of the house to create that open plan living. 3-bed semi-detached house, this time in a lovely kitchen extension. Now this is an RSJ, a steel girder, which is going into the party wall. Now this hollow, uninsulated void of the RSJ allows the sound to transmit from the party wall all the way down. The sound going through this RSJ web of the steel, we call it, is actually being amplified and transmitting up to the client's bedroom. So any noise in the neighbour's new extension will just hit this RSJ in the neighbour's property, and it will transmit along that RSJ, being channeled into this area of your house, this back wall, the original wall of the house. And that's why this wall is so important, especially if your neighbours have built an extension at the rear of the property. The indirect noise path of the ceiling, well, we tucked what we installed to the separating party wall, we tucked all of those layers up and we sealed those layers to the floorboards above. We then insulated that void, that bedroom floor, that lounge ceiling void, we insulated that with 200mm of Rockwool, an RW3 Rockwool. We then patched up that ceiling where we cut it open with a sound block 15 because we had to put that mass back, otherwise Otherwise, we've reduced the mass of the ceiling in that area. And then we boarded over the whole ceiling. We installed Soundblock 15 to the entire lounge diner ceiling. And that will reflect our homeowners' noise back into the room, giving them a bit of privacy as well. It also improves the thermal value of the room. Heat will really struggle to escape this room, and it will also reduce the room-to-room transfer of noise for our homeowners in their own home. So another indirect noise path that I've not mentioned yet is situated outside this room that we're trying to soundproof. It's this wall here separating the front and back bedrooms, which is upstairs above the room that we're trying to soundproof. Now, I asked the homeowners on the initial phone call that we had, I asked them, put your ear on this wall. Do you hear the neighbours on this wall? And they said yes, they clearly hear the neighbour's TV on this wall separating the front and back bedroom. So just to be clear, they could hear the neighbour's TV in the neighbour's living room on this wall, which was upstairs, separating the front and back bedroom. The noise from the neighbour's TV was resonating in this wall and then shooting back down into the room that we were trying to soundproof. Remember I said about noises in the structure? It's everywhere in the structure, and as soon as it comes to a hollow void like this hollow wall, which is separating the front and back bedroom, this is actually a hollow wall. The sound was resonating in this hollow void and then shooting back down into this room that we're trying to soundproof. So if you just have a look where this wall is situated on the ceiling in the room downstairs. So that separating wall between the front and back bedroom is situated right about here, which is right above our homeowner's head if they were sat in that room reading, being peaceful, chilling out in that room. They've got that noise of the neighbours resonating in this hollow wall, which is right above their head, which is situated in the room above. This wall is actually called a paramount board wall, and it's often found with 1960s, 70s type property here in the UK. This wall, it just sound transmits so easily through these old panels, so worse than SIPs, And what we need to do is open it up, insulate it, and reduce that sound resonating and shooting back down into the room that we're trying to soundproof. Fixtures and fittings, step number 4 in the 4-step soundproofing method. Just look at the amount of renovation to this lounge diner to reduce the noise from the neighbours getting into this lounge diner. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of soundproofing materials that we've used too. The last thing you want to do is go and compromise your new soundproofing. So this is where fixtures and fittings comes in. You want to install all of those fixtures and fittings back into the room, but installed back in a way which doesn't compromise the new soundproofing. Just to be clear, you can install whatever you want back on your new soundproof walls. You've just got to take that into consideration in the initial design phase. So if you want that TV on the wall, that's fine. Just got to put the right technology in the wall to support that TV. So let's take the electrical first of all. We've got a few double sockets on this separating party wall, and we've made sure we installed the same materials that we've installed to the rest of the wall behind those double sockets. And if you're wondering how we've done that, we show you exactly how to do that in Soundproofing for Beginners. It's towards the end of the video, but there is step-by-step installation instructions. I share with you exactly how we do that. So go and check out that video after you've liked and subscribed this one. Now I get a lot of questions regarding acoustic putty pads. Why don't you just put acoustic putty pads behind the electrical sockets? Well, if acoustic putty pads offer any sound attenuation, I would just cover the whole wall and ceiling and flanking walls in acoustic putty pads. But the truth is, acoustic putty pads, they're just heavily marketed because they're easy to ship and easy to distribute. The best results we find is to put the same materials that you install to the wall behind the socket. I hope that helps. Floorboards are secured back to the suspended floor joist but isolated, decoupled from those new soundproof walls. Skirting is then installed back on the walls but put back with a gap isolated from the floor. we installed a new windowsill to the bay window. Remember, we removed the original windowsill so we could install sound insulation to this window wall. And when we install the 50mm system to the window walls, we like to return all of the layers back into the window. And this, we find, improves the integrity of the window. It means the window will perform better thermally and acoustically as well. The homeowners will hear less noise from outside after we've returned the sound insulation into the window frame. So we did all the decorating in this lounge diner and then the carpet was installed. And just a little note on carpet. If you are having this amount of sound insulation installed to your room, if you've treated soundproof that window wall, that other window wall, that shared separating party wall, the ceiling and the floor, you've potentially created a lot of hard surfaces, a lot of highly reflective surfaces where sound can bounce around, reflect off, and that causes a lot of sound energy bouncing around in that room that you soundproof. And it's really important to install sound absorption to your new soundproof room, which is why sound absorption is a key part of fixtures and fittings.
Hi guys, so this is a little video on sound absorption. We've just finished installing sound absorption to the ceiling. We've got a little bit more ceiling up to do, but already you can feel the room is more acoustically comfortable.
And some of you might be saying, Jim, it's my noise bouncing around. My sound is bouncing around causing that echo. I don't care as long as I don't hear the neighbours. Well, yes, to a certain extent you will be right. It will reduce a lot of your echo reverberation in the room. The room will sound more acoustically comfortable once you've installed those soft furnishings in the room, be it carpet or canvas pictures, or sometimes people blow up holiday photos and put that sound absorption behind. That's a good way of reducing the sound energy bouncing around in the room. But have you ever wondered why they don't allow hardwood finished floors installed to some apartment blocks? Like some people, if they've changed their carpets to hardwood finished floors in apartments in the UK here, they can be forced to change it back to carpet. Have you ever noticed, some of you might have had neighbours where you know that your neighbours have removed all the carpets, they've gone for tiled floors or hardwood finished floors everywhere, and suddenly you hear more from the neighbours. And this is the reason why we don't judge a new soundproof room until all the soft furnishings are back in that room. The soft furnishings are a key part of fixtures and fittings. And if you really want that significant reduction in noise, install soft furnishings to your new soundproof room. It can make quite a difference. Our homeowners had a nice fluffy high-powered carpet installed which took all the echo reverberation out of this room. They also had some nice Tottenham Dalmatian curtains and blinds installed too, which also helped with the sound energy bouncing around in this room. We then installed acoustic secondary glazing to this bay window. And this was to reduce the noise from the neighbour's bay window going out of their bay window and then back in through our homeowner's bay window. It also reduces outside noise by about 80% as well. So if you have road traffic noise or kids playing outside the front of your house, or maybe you have neighbours that let their dogs out barking at 11 o'clock at night and you're trying to go to sleep, these are all good reasons to have acoustic secondary glazing. And if you can install a good air gap between your original window and your new acoustic secondary glazing, you'll get a really good result. Both noise from outside getting in and your noise getting out if you like to play music and make noise yourself. Okay, so what is that overall soundproofing result? Well, we spoke to our homeowners about 4 weeks after the soundproofing installation and we asked them, what do you hear? What is the soundproofing result? And here's what they said. Well, they don't hear the kids screeching anymore, and they don't hear the kids playing ball in the house anymore. They don't hear the doors banging anymore, and when they hear the neighbours in the bedrooms upstairs, they then run downstairs to the new lounge and they listen and they don't hear anything. They don't hear the washing machine in the lounge and they don't feel the vibrations anymore. They said they don't feel the vibrations in any of the rooms of the house, but they said they do still hear the washing machine in the upstairs rooms, in the upstairs bedrooms, but it's nowhere near as loud as it was. But remember, we've not soundproofed those bedrooms above, and that just shows you as well, if you're thinking of soundproofing your home, try and do the downstairs first. Try and soundproof those rooms downstairs the best you can, because what you will find is it will reduce the noise in other rooms. There's a lot of noise paths in the rooms downstairs which will be channeling to those rooms upstairs. So yeah, just wanted to point that out. Now, one thing our homeowners mentioned was the privacy. They feel that they can talk and laugh and live their lives in their lounge. They don't have to talk like this anymore. They don't have to talk quietly because worried about the neighbours might hear what they're saying, which is pretty cool. So with this level of soundproofing, I would still expect our homeowners to hear some thumps and bangs coming through from next door, especially if the kids are running around upstairs, and if they're sat in the silence, those thumps and bangs could still come through. They could still hear them, but it will sound more distant. It'll sound like a more distant thud, and it would be difficult to determine whether that was outside or not. With the terms of airborne noise, most airborne noise would be gone. You wouldn't hear that noise come through. Obviously, if the neighbours are having a complete blowout next door, going absolutely mental, and you're sat in the silence reading, for example, then yeah, you're potentially going to hear some of that stuff come through. But if you've got a TV on or something on in the background, then yeah, you're not going to be disturbed by that noise. You're not going to hear that noise come through. So with regards to our homeowners project here, really good result, really happy customers, and yet as I said, they're so pleased that they did it. It's been transformational for them. So just one last thing, because I fell into this trap. I thought if I could take the edge off the noise from the neighbours, if I could achieve maybe a 30-50% reduction in noise from my neighbours, which sounds great at first thought. I thought brilliant, that's what I'll go for, because any respite in that TV noise would be great. But actually, I renovated my lounge 3 times back to brickwork, and the reason for that is I realised that it only takes a slight bit of noise to come through for you to feel stressed and annoyed with the noise and think of moving again. And we find, after soundproofing thousands of homes and speaking to so many people with a noise problem, those people that think that they can just soundproof the separating party wall, they can just put a solution on every room in their house that has a party wall, they do only get that slight bit of reduction in noise. They still hear the noise from the neighbours, and they move within about 2 years. Believe it or not, these old properties are actually easier to soundproof than the new build properties, and the significant reduction in noise that you can achieve from soundproofing these old properties is so much more than what you get from soundproofing the new build properties. Alright guys, that's it for now. I hope you found the video useful. I hope it's shown you some soundproofing insights, and I hope it's given you some inspiration to soundproof your own home. And if it has, please consider giving it a like and a subscribe. All that happens when you click subscribe is it just notifies you when my next video is out. And also, before you go, don't forget to check out all the free stuff in the description down below. Alright guys, take care. I'll see you in the next video.